Shalom to everybody and Chodesh Tov. We are learning today about the Kabbalistic astrology of the month of Sivan, which is Gemini. Now, how do we approach the month of Gemini, Sivan? So for this, we have the Kabbalistic teachings that we find in Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation, and from there we can start calculating what are the forces that basically the month of Sivan is representing in our physical world. And as the Zohar is teaching us in the Zohar Parashat Yitro, that it's not that the constellations and the stars affect us, they are just tools the Creator gave us in order to understand what are the forces that are in the universe at any time of the year. And the Zohar says it's like looking at somebody's face. When we look at someone's face, we don't feel in the face. We don't think in the face. We're not upset in the face. We're not happy in the face. For that, we have our minds, our hearts, our guts, and so on. However, if you look at somebody's head, top of the head, or the heart, you can't see anything. So you look at the face, and the face in Hebrew, the face is panim, same letters as pnim, which means it's inside. What the face shows what's inside. The same thing says as well. You want to know what are the forces now and here. You look at the face of the creation, which are the skies. So the skies do not affect. It's the forces that God put in this world to help us do our journey properly. But God also created the structure of the zodiac signs and the planets in order to reflect to us what's happening here and now. It's not that there are influences coming from the stars. It's here. But the stars are the face of the universe relatively to us. So now when we understand that and we made that clear, let's go into understanding what are the forces that basically are being activated every time we say there's a new zodiac sign that is just now starting to influence. Okay, so we realize that we have, if you look at the picture in front of us, at the table in front of us, we realize that in every sign, there is a game of 3 wheels, which means if you have a number, but the number is made of 3 different digits. And when we use analog, the digits was basically, it was a circle of digits, and you just moved each circle, and that's how you got 1,000 different combinations. Okay, you can get from 000 to 999. Altogether, in between them, you can have 1,000 different numbers. Okay, the same thing over here. Let us look about what are the 3 wheels that are moving, each one of them in a different pace. So the first wheel is the wheel of the 4 seasons. Okay, it's coming from the movement that the Earth is doing around the sun. Okay, and we can see when the Earth is making a move around the sun, because it is elliptic, it has to be divided into 4 sections. Okay, and the boundaries are the boundaries of the different seasons. Okay, so these 4 points are the main axis of the Hebrew calendar. So we're starting with the equinox, the spring equinox, that is March 21st. And why is that a very important axis? Because you'll never have Passover before March 21st. Why? Because Passover is the holiday of the spring, Chodesh HaAviv. Therefore, you can never have Passover before March 21st. Every time it looks like the Passover is going to be before March 21st, then you have a leap year, which means another month is added. So Passover is pushed again towards inside the spring. So you have the spring equinox. The next is June 21st, which is the beginning of the summer. So that is the longest day in the northern hemisphere. Then another season, we have the next one will be the fall equinox, September 21st. And then we have the winter shortest day, and that's on December 21st. These are the 4 points of the axis. So when we're talking about the spring is, as we're talking about 4 seasons. Why 4 seasons? They are representing what is called the tetragrammaton. Tetra is 4. The name of 4 letters, Yud and Hey, Vav and Hey. Each one of them is basically representing one of the 4 basic elements of the creation. So the Yud is Sfirat Chokhmah, representing Sfirat Chokhmah, and the element of fire, which means energy and creativity. So that's the basic, the core of all the 3 signs of the spring. That's why Aries, Taurus, and Gemini have deep inside them the energy of fire, which is energy, power, creativity. They're always full of energy. And also fire is consuming, which means fire can never stop. The moment fire stops consuming, it's dead. And that's why we have in the core, Aries, Taurus, and Gemini are all 3 selfish in the core. They need to consume, they need to take, they need to feed. Okay, so that's the first digit. Now the second is in every zodiac sign, you have now a cycle of 3, right, left, center. Right is always representing the element of water, giving. Left is always the symbol for the fire, again, creative and receiving. And you have the center, which is the synthesis between the 2. This is the air and the balance. Okay, so that's right, left, and center. Now there's another wheel of 4, and that wheel, if you notice, it's that's what is the what is known as the elements in Western astrology. So Aries is a fire sign, and you can say right to the word Aries. You see it says fire. Okay, and because Aries is a fire sign, okay, you please note that fire is also the element of that season. So because the season is Chokhmah, fire, the Yud, the spring, so the first sign in the season is a fire sign. Okay, we'll see the same concept when we go to the summer. The summer is ruled by Binah, which is a water, the energy of water. So you see the first sign in the summer is Cancer, which is a water sign. Now if we go to the fall is air. Okay, the element is air of the Vav. And the first sign of the fall is Libra, which is air sign. And then the winter is Malchut, which is earth, the element of earth. And that's why the first sign of the winter is earth. But also the order is very important, because if you see, you realize that there's a very distinct order. The first is fire, Aries is fire. After fire, you have earth, then air, and then water. And now what do you see? Again, Leo is fire. And then you have, again, earth. Okay, you see fire, earth, air, and water. And again, Leo, Virgo, fire, earth, air, and water, Libra and Scorpio. And then again, fire, air, earth, and water. So you see that the third cycle is the elements, the way we know them in the Western astrology. So every sign is basically a combination of all three. So when we're talking about the sign of Gemini, we know that in the core, it is a fire sign. That's why always energy, always on the move, always looking on the look, always in the need for something to consume, usually information, knowledge, and connection. Okay? Now, it is the central column of the spring, so it has very important trait. That's the air of the fires. And it's also an air sign in the third digit. So we have fire and 2 air. Now, everybody who ever did barbecue knows that you can turn on the fire, but that doesn't mean that everything is done. You need to fan. You need a lot of air to feed the fire. It's not enough to give the fire just fuel. You need a lot of air. So when you have 1 fire and 2 air, that means there's a lot of flames. And therefore, Gemini, people are very, very energetic. However, because of the dominance of the 2 airs over here, it's also air because it's the third sign in the spring, and it's also air because it's an air sign. So because of that, we see with Gemini a lot of creativity, a lot of the move they need to be where things are happening, okay? And we see the fine side, which is the need to create within, but also selfishness. Selfishness and cold logic to hide that selfishness. And therefore, you could see in the sign of Gemini a lot of creativity, a lot of movement, a lot of intellectual interest in stuff, in making communication. And because central column is always being very sensitive to imbalances and the need to balance it. So what does it mean about the sign of Gemini? So people that were born in the sign of Gemini, they have, as we said, very strong drive to be on the go, change, transformation, especially with 2 air, and in the intellectual drive to know as much as possible about anything. So if you want to know what's going on, go to a Gemini, they will tell you. They know what's going on. They're so interested, and they're always on the go to find the connections. Therefore, we have 2 traits that are very famous for Gemini. We have the journalist, which means they get interested, they make a very shallow research, they get connected to you, they charm you to open up, so you will give them as much information as possible. They listen, they get excited about it, and then they disappear because they're already on a new article. So this is like the typical Gemini. Another aspect of the Gemini is the salesperson. He meets you, he connects to you, he realizes what are your needs, he gets you the product that you need, he creates a product if there's a need, but he will provide it to you. He needs to serve you, and he will get you in an instant. They're very, very easy to connect, to charm, and to get into people. So That's another thing. So so if the first is the journalist, the second and the second is the salesperson, that also he needs to get into you, to connect to you, to make you feel that you are the best friend, so that you open up and give him as much information as possible, and then he knows what product to give you, and the moment he made the sale, he moves on, and maybe it keeps you in the customer base. That's the higher level of a Gemini. So he continues to provide you with the products that you need. Another thing that is very new, this is all about communication. Yes, in the old world, you did not have so much communication. You had messengers, you had a system of communication, but of really run faster, fast runners. Okay, but today, this is it. We have internet, we have phones, cellular phones. Gemini, this is their realm. Fast, speedy communication, endless amounts of information. You can drown in the ocean of information. Geminis, they love it. That's exactly their turf. Okay, so what does that mean? So we have here a little issue. The issue is, on one hand, Geminis are very interested. They're so like talented in getting a connection in an instant with a person, learning who's the person, getting to know who's the person, what's the sound, what's the frequency, and then they get bored and they move on. Which means life is not about getting articles about people. Life is about creating steady, long-distance relationships. With that, Geminis have a problem. They do not, if they're not spiritual, they do not want to commit. Why should I commit to one spouse? Why should I commit to that person? It's like boring. Too long with the same person. This is really boring. So they need to change, but the problem is that the change is in external, while a Gemini needs to have an internal change, which means getting the fire element within them tamed. So whatever you want to receive, and you want to receive it dearly, you're so eager to get stuff, you have to become a supplier of whatever you want to receive, which means warmth, relationships, all that people need. So a Gemini that has the ability to get into somebody and to realize, to define the need, also to communicate that connection, that need properly. Okay, so a Gemini can be just somebody who gets bored very easily, and if you're not interesting enough, sooner or later will leave you, because no one can be that interesting that the Gemini can just consume your creativity and be okay. Sooner or later, they'll be bored and then move on. They don't have the patience to stay there. So if they're not enjoying it, they just simply move on. And that's a very important trait for us. We're not here just to be in one place. We need to move on and on and on and on. That's a very important thing about Gemini and about every human being. However, in order not to be bored, you need to generate your own connection. And therefore, you need the direct connection to the light and the source of all that is good. And then you realize that marriage, family, community, these are commitments that are not your jail. These commitments are your wings to soar and to fly high. But because we'll learn to have a stable connection of love relationships, you are realizing that this is something that is never the same. Every day, every hour, it is different. So you have to really be really creative in order to be able to maintain a real married life. So the moment that Gemini gets it, this is a totally different ballgame. And that's very important. So let's continue and see what's in it for us in Gemini. Now, when we come in to talk about the month of Sivan, Gemini, we realize we have two major players in the month of Gemini, which are the letter Zain for Gemini, Teomim, twins, and the letter Reish for Kochav, Mercury. Now, first of all, Mercury. Mercury, if you look at the letter Reish, that according to the Book of Formation created Mercury, you see how the Reish, how empty it is. You just have the perimeter of one side and there's nothing inside. So it's so empty. And that's why in Hebrew it's Reish, which means poor, Rish. What's interesting is in many European languages, Rish means rich. And in Hebrew it means the same word, poor. And that is about the definition of who is rich, who is really rich. If somebody has a lot of money, but no content, are they really rich? So they buy and they buy and they shop and they buy, but when they are empty, sooner or later they'll get exhausted because they don't understand that as a Gemini, you can use the Reish of Mercury to observe wisdom, knowledge, in order for you to resynthesize it and share it to others. This is very important. But what we know is because there's an element of poverty in Mercury, this element makes you hungry. And we know that real wise people, the people really wise, they must have hunger. If you're satiated, you think everything is perfect, everything is good, everything is great. What's the incentive to change? And we human beings, we are not here to stay the same, to fight, keeping ourselves the same. No, we have to fight for transformation, change till we reveal all of those hidden traits we have inside us that as long as we are shallow, we don't really understand how things are working, we will never be able to bring it up to the surface. But when we are working on the spiritual aspect, we need to have that hunger to bring forth all of those hidden traits that are available for us. Number 7 is also having an issue with emptiness and a lack, because number 7 is Malchut, the 7th Sephirah of the lower 7. Whenever we use the word 7 for Sephirah, we use the 7th Sephirah, the Sephirah of Malchut, which is again hunger, need. Okay, so this is a very strong drive that we see. A lot of Geminis have a very strong drive to learn, to know, to get in touch, so they can have a lot of acquaintances, like friends on Facebook today, and no really good friends. And the fact that, there's so many people, you think about it, we are now in the age of Aquarius. This is also an air sign. And you see the same symptoms around us. What symptoms? People know a lot about nothing, or they know nothing about a lot, which means the real main skills of creating a thriving community are not developed. It's all about individualism. So how can I consume by myself? So that brings us to the book Bnei Sachar. Bnei Sachar it's kind of a summary of Rabbi Tzvi Elimelech of Dinov. He lived in Eastern Europe in the 18th century, and he put together all the knowledge and all the legends in the Old writings in the Talmud and so on about the different signs of the zodiac. Okay, now so what does it say? There are many things. We won't have time to look through all of them. But first of all, when we look in the picture in front of us, and we see that there's a letter permutation of the tetragrammaton. It says in the Tikkunei Zohar that the 12 different letter permutations of the tetragrammaton, Yud, K, Vav, K, each one of them represent another zodiac sign. So the one that is for Gemini is what you see around in front of us. We have Yud, Vav, Hey, and Hey. So what you have is the male letters, Yud and Vav, coming before the female letters, the two Heys. Okay? What does it mean? That in this month, you have a very dominant male energy. And what is male energy? Is the to be dominant in the action of getting out, going in front of you, and leaving the box, looking always to create something new. Now, in the Tikkunei Zohar that he explained it over there, it says that these four letters connect to the verse in Exodus 26, verses 19, 20, Yedotav uletzela mishkan hashenit, which means it's arms, handles, and the other side of the Mishkan. What does that mean? So it speaks about the tabernacle, who had so many aspects of connecting things together. So basically, what is Gemini about? It's about connecting. If it's about journalism, it's connecting people to knowledge, to pieces of knowledge. If it is about production, it's about, and especially sales, it's connecting people to the product they need. Okay, knowing what they need and finding as soon as possible the product that that person needs. That's about sales. And more than that, when it says the other side, and the Zohar explains when we're talking about the other side, where are we using that word first time? And we're talking about Adam, that he was created of both sides, male and female. And then finally, he separated the two sides, male and female. So the result is that humanity is made of males and females. Why are we different? And the answer is because there is so much energy released, revealed, when two different parts of the whole get together to recreate the whole. So when Adam was split from Eve, that was a side. Selah is a side. And when they put together, you have such an amazing union that releases light that is basically the light of the redemption. So all about Geminis are all about synthesis. It's all about taking, in many issues, you have the male aspect and the female aspect. The one who initiates and can't stay in the box and wants to move everybody forward. And you have the female aspect, is the one who wants to stay behind. Don't change the water in the pool. Just leave it the way it is. So, but always you need to keep some ideas, traditions with you, because they brought you up to here. You can't just let go of them. So those two forces of the two sides want to go out and want to stay inside. One is to connect between the message and the people who need the message. Again, it's all about synthesis. And when synthesis happens, it's like you listen to a bunch of few hundred people with musical tools. So they're just starting. So you hear the few pianos playing, each one of them for himself, and you have few violins and few cellos and so on and so on. Let's go on. And it's a terrible noise. But then they start playing the same music, and the sound is heavenly. Why heavenly? Because it reminds us how, when the world was created, how heavenly was it, which means the harmony between male and female, the harmony between the creation and the creator, all of these, putting them together. That is the purpose of humanity, that we got a world that is set apart and broken into pieces so we can put things together and finally make the world one global village. But what makes it a one global village is that you do not erase the identity of each village on the globe. Just make a global village that has all of these villages. Each one of them is revealing what is best that no one else can reveal. Okay? So here when you say the other side, yes, all of those, it's all coming together. Again, synthesis, like on Mount Sinai. All the Israelites were on Mount Sinai in the month of Gemini. And all of them got together to realize that every other person is completing me. He's not against me because he doesn't think like me. He's not supposed to think like me. He's supposed to be him, because if he's not him, who is he going to deliver to me? Another me, I have already one. So that's, if you go back to the symphony, when the orchestra is made of many, many players, and each one of them is playing something so different, but when they play together in harmony, oh, we feel so much amazing, because it reminds us what we're here for this kind of harmony, for everybody getting together. Okay, so we have in this parasha, because it's the third month, and the third month means central column, and that means the air sign, which is always trying to balance, to mediate, like mediate, which means to connect between the consumer and the product. But it's more than that. To mediate means, and that is what this month is about, when people come with many, many, many different ideas, how to find what's connecting people together and how to create the wholeness, the completion all over again, by fitting every part into his own place. And because this is the calling of humanity, this is why the Mount Sinai revelation had to be during the month of Sivan. And what's in it? So yes, there is in Mount Sinai revelation, huge revelation. It's so Gemini because looking at all the details of the creation, knowing all the ins and outs, and wow, they love it. But here comes the issue. You need to commit to it. I don't know if I want to commit. The Geminis. You need to commit to it. It's not such a great deal for you to find the rules. Now you have to commit to the rules. You have to live the rules. Why? Because, you live in a house and you need to use electricity. You can't play your own game. You have to abide to the rules, because if you don't abide to the rules of electricity, that's going to be disastrous. And you won't be able to go on to doing what you're doing. So you have to go understand the system as rules. You want to connect to the tree of life, you have to know how to elevate yourself to that place that is awaiting you every Shabbat, all over every occasion, because it's there. It's there waiting. Now, why Shabbat? Because number 7. The letter Zayin is number 7. The Shabbat is a symbol of that completion, the cycle that always is there, to remind us that when you go by the rules and you connect to the network, it's all there for you. Now, if you take the two letters together, the one for Mercury, Reish, and for Gemini, Zain, you get together a new word, Raz. In Hebrew, Raz is the hidden secret, usually as a holy secret. Also, Raz in Gematria, numerical value, is 207. If we see it here. On one hand, this is 207 is also all light. Okay? So Mount Sinai revelation is basically the tools that when we put things together, we put ideas together, we put people together, we put all the aspects of humanity together in one peaceful, harmonious frequency, you reveal the secret of how to connect to the light. But when we do not want to commit to the rules, and the rules, especially love others as you love yourself. Do you ever think why God gave the 2 tablets to Moses? Why he could not write with a smaller font and write everything on 1 tablet? Why Moses had to get 2 tablets? What is this? What is the symbol of the sign of Gemini? The twins. 2 who are 1. 2 tablets who are 1. 1 law. And it's all about teaching us that the whole idea of Mount Sinai revelation is love others as you love yourself. I'm God. Which means when you get out of your cave and you reach out for others unconditionally, just because that's our redemption to reach out from our cave, and we don't expect thank you, we don't expect any reward for it, because the reward is the moment we got out of our cave, we connected to God outside the box. Okay? That's what the Raz means. That holy secret that is outside the box. Then you reveal the light. That's enlightenment. But if you take the letters Reish Zayin and you turn them around, you get Zar. And Zar means foreign. Zar means disconnection. Zar means alienation. So if you look at our society, a society of endless flow of information, we see that's happening. Instead of through all the flow of information that people will be so close to each other, there was never an era that people were so lonely. The biggest disease, plague in history, happening right now in front of us, loneliness. Loneliness, because loneliness means I am foreign to you. That's Zar. It's the opposite of enlightenment. It's being foreign means loneliness, and loneliness means disease. It is a disease to be lonely. It kills you earlier. But why do you want to stay lonely? You know, I can't stand people. You do them a favor and they never say thank you. Who said you should wait for the thank you? If you really understand the secret, you understand when it says love others as you love yourself. I am God. What's the connection? When you love others and you do to others what you want to be done to yourself, and you go out of your comfort zone, outside the box, you get out of your dungeon and you meet who? God himself. You don't share with others so they can say thank you or they can appreciate you. You don't do that. Why? Because in the moment you're waiting their thank you or their reward, you know, maybe they won't have time to do that. Maybe they will forget. Maybe they don't think you're supposed to get anything. But if you are building the expectation, you're not free human being anymore. You became free when you gave, when you reached out, but then you are a slave again. And therefore it says on the 2 tablets, do not have other gods. When I am, you know, when my inner peace and well-being is dependent on other people's thankfulness, I am an idol worshiper. They are my idols. They are the ones who decide if I'm going to be happy or not. That's against the rules of the game of life. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't be dependent and the same and happy. No, that's why it says, love others as you love yourself. I'm God. What's I'm God? That's how you connect to God. By the law of affinity, the more we get out of our comfort zone and get out to love others, basically we find the frequency of the Creator. And now we can connect to it, not as a given, but as an achievement, main achievement in our lives. But in our day and age, when the rule of divide and conquer is so important, so people are so alienated with each other. And when they are lonely, painfully lonely, because they don't want to be committed to other people. They don't want really to love because they're afraid. People are garbage. You hear that. You give them, they never say thank you. You don't need the thank you. The moment you give by a law of affinity, you get closer to God. That's why you give. Oh, yes, you have an agenda, but at least this agenda is much more productive because the closer you get to God, the more flow of bliss you have in your life. So yes, I'm supposed to say thank you to those people that I helped them. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to get out of myself because I transformed so much because of it. Thanks to it. Okay, so let's go back a little bit. So when we said that Gemini is about communication, it's about giving what's needed to whoever is in lack. And that's marketing, that's our communication, that's why Geminis, they flourish in our day and age. However, if there's no commitment to do not steal and do not kill, do not covet somebody else's property or a wife or so on, and stay loyal to the Creator, if you do not follow that, you do not really get attached to the Creator. You need to have the commitment not to do to others what you don't like to be done to you. So during this month, through the letters Resh and Zayin, through the letters of the Tetragrammaton Yud, Vav, Hey, and Hey, through that sixth sentence of the Ana Bekoach prayer, Yachid Ge'eh, Lamcha Yachid Ge'eh, Lamcha Peneh, Zochre Kedushatecha, we activate the connection to Mercury and the powers behind it, and to Gemini. Also, you can connect to through that window to Virgo, but not this month. This month is Gemini. And the whole thing is about when we become loyal to those ideas of honesty and dignity and integrity, and at the same time we are in pursuit of spiritual study and wisdom, we will find the way to people's hearts and to stay there and to build a family, a community, a nation, and a peaceful world. But there's no way, if we are Geminis or not, there's no way we can stay away from that. Because the other option is so painful, because feeling alienated and foreign to every human being is like unbearable. People are not structured, not built to live this way. So when we're talking about Mercury, which is the Resh, so he said it's the zodiac signs that affected are Gemini and Virgo. The planet itself, it's about, as we said, communication, fast thinking, about intelligence. And again, if you see, there's something missing over here, emotions. And that's the tikkun, the work of those people that born under the sign of Gemini, is to stop running fast forward, to realize that the most interesting thing in the world is the process that you go when you learn how to love people, the process that other people go through. When you get interested in them, everything is interesting. So that's why Mount Sinai revelation had to happen on the month of Gemini. And because of that union, because of that bridge, the Israelites could bridge between them among themselves and become one nation. As they said, they camped as one person with one heart in front of the mount. But more than that, that communication between the people and their God to become one. That's also, and that energy was available only on that day after they worked so hard for it, 49 days. And also the fact that Gemini is about two people that have so much in common and they work like a team. So this is, in a nutshell, what the sign of Gemini is about. And that's our work, because the studying of wisdom, the study of the Torah that was given on the month of Gemini, Sivan, is what is supposed to elevate us to that place that we really become interested in other people. So we learn from them, we learn from their mistakes, we learn how to escort them, follow them with their spiritual growth, so you learn more. So finally, the light can be revealed in your life, because when you become just a loving, caring person, that the focus is about human relationships and not that information. When you focus on that, then all of this can be revealed with so much greatness. Thank you very much. Chodesh Tov.